Oh gosh, did it work? Did it not work? Yes, it's working. Good morning and welcome to the channel. I am going to be doing some weird stuff for the time of the year. What I should be doing is harvesting soybeans, but unfortunately, I am unable to do that operation. You want to know why? Because it's too wet. We had rain, and the beans are just I'm trying to set this up, and I'm going to show you what I'm about to do here in a second, but the beans are just not drying down like they're supposed to. I got swollen beans and everything, and I cut yesterday, and I wasn't too thrilled with that at all because I cut yesterday. And let's see, where can I put this thing? I think I could put it right here, right? And this thing should just kind of maybe just. Can you hear me now? I'm hoping you can. Maybe I'll pull this. Can I? Maybe that's better. Is that better? I don't know. We'll find out. Put that thing back in there. See, my little. There. Hello. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying that nonsense. If you look down here, like right down here, you'll see that my tire doesn't quite look right because it's not right. It is flat. Yeah, it's flat. So, oh, the joys of having this type of stuff happen to you. I'm being kind of sarcastic here. It's not fun. It's not funny. It just is what it is. And, yeah. My problem with this machine is, where do you jack it up from, right? Where do you jack it up from? Yeah. Yeah, I got a mess around here. It's not really a disaster, it's just a mess. And it normally doesn't look like this always. It's just lately I've been so busy with everything that we just can't get it quite right.com. So I'm pretty sure. No. Let's see what happens. All right. You're going to watch this thing go up. You're not going to see much of me. But I know this is not going to be a happy day. But you got to know. Huh. So I got this railroad. Ouch, that hurt. Yeah, what's happening is the suspension is not going to allow me to lift this thing up where it needs to be to get that tire back in its place. I'm fighting a futile battle here, I think. I think I can probably do a little bit of Afro engineering here. Nope, that's all the further. That will go up. Oh my goodness. It's like, what are you doing, Wesley? So what I'm gonna do, kind of simple. I'll come around this side here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this up there like that. All I gotta do is get this tire straightened out. It does not have to be perfect. It just has to work, right? This machine is greased up and ready to go. So what I'm doing is, because the suspension on this thing is these rubber blocks, they just droop. I'm not happy with the suspension on this. Honestly, I think that the suspension on the case is a little better. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't think that the suspension on the case is a little better. I know it is. It's got airbags on it, even though this is just probably stupid what I'm doing. Okay. Is that tire gonna flatten out? What are we gonna do here? Darn it. That's a problem with jacking these things up like this. You just can't get everything where you want it. And of course, I can't get that in. Let me give it a couple more pumps here. Maybe I can get it in that way. If it doesn't knock the whole damn thing over. So stupid. Huh. Nope. Did I say that was stupid? Stand back. I'm hoping I can get that tire blasted back on there where it belongs. Ay, ay, ay. Sound like my great-grandmother. Ay, ay, ay. Apparently she said that a lot, but I don't know. Would have been a whole lot nicer if I didn't have to deal with it this way. So let's say we get some air and starting fluid. Okay, we can do this. That guy's name, Sean Umshide, or the No Way guy. What? No way. He's a Canadian, I think. And he does all these. He does these videos of things that you wouldn't think would work, but do. Fuck's sakes, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. So, we shall do a what? No way kind of a thing. Uh-oh. Let's, yeah. Yeah. Can you believe that? There it goes. We're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. No, we're not going to lose it. That was not too dramatic. But I'll tell you what. It works, right? So what happens if you don't get air in there? The fire burns out all the oxygen inside the tire. And when it does that, it'll suck the tire right back off the bead. So you have to that's the worst thing about this jack. All right, so a couple years back, well, let's go back a little bit. Back in like 2001, I started farming this piece of property here, right? I started making hay on this piece of property. I got Timothy mowing now, but started making hay on this property. It was all a warm season grass or native grasses. Had a little bit of cool season grasses into it, but they needed me to farm it. I said yes, and we would do it. Where Tim's working right now, that was fenced off. That was pasture, and it it was pasture. Well, 2 years ago, I got a phone call from the owner, and she wanted me to give her small square bales of hay. Like, give them to her. I used to sell her little bales of hay at a reduced price, but I never gave her hay. Well, at some point in her mind, she said that I had given her hay, and I told her, I said, no, I've never given hay away, but I have sold it to you for a reduced price, which that reduced price was like $3 a bale. I said, the problem is I just don't have, that just wasn't in my business anymore. I was done with it, and I said I could not give you the hay at that price. It would be $6 a bale for the hay. And she told me, she says, well, I've had to buy hay, and it was $7.50 a bale, and she says I need to pay her the difference between $3 and $7.50. I found that to be rather ridiculous, and I said, well, I'm not going to do that. She said, well, then I do not want you farming my property. I was like, okay. Which took her aback a little bit, because I guess she thought that I should pay for this property. Well, it's a type of hay that you can only sell to a mushroom barn, and it's, it's the type of hay you can only sell to a mushroom barn. You can't plant corn or soybeans here because there's a deer population that is so incredibly large. You just would not be able to compete with the deer. It's just not going to happen. So I said no. She said, good. Well, on the other side of the driveway, there's a farm that I've done since 1998, and almost 30 years, right? Yeah, what is that, 26 years, 27 years? Yeah, 1998, 27 years. I've done it for so long. Anyways, last year I came in with that particular machine, and the hay was gone. That was the year before last. The hay was gone. I was like, what the hell? So they stole my hay. Well, I was like, well, I guess if they wanted it that bad, F them. I'm not even going to worry about it. I'll do the Christian thing, turn the other cheek. And I did. Well, last spring, I get a phone call from that property owner, and she's like, hey, she said, are you going to be farming my ground? I said, well, yeah, I'm going to farm your ground. She said, okay, because I didn't know who did it last year. I don't know who they were, and they never gave me a receipt. And you gave me a receipt. I said, well, I did. I says, I was a little upset because I didn't get the hay. She's like, well, they're not going to farm this ground. That's just your ground. I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, great, because it really annoyed me because I farmed it for so many years and I was upset that I lost it. She said, well, you didn't lose it. It was taken from you, and that's not going to happen again. So anyways, there were some squabbles between neighbors, a little bit of squabbling between neighbors. And when I came in to make the hay on the other side, there was an Alice Chalmers, like a 70-45, hooked to a brush hog over here. And they had already brush hogged where we're working right now. And they were working on the backfields. Well, this farm is usually pretty good for about 180 large square bales between the two properties. Teresa baled 40 bales off of the other property. And of course, we've got this one now. So the other neighbor, the other property owner that I do the hay on, I'd continued to do the hay on, she said that this neighbor over here was probably going to have you cut the hay again because the guy that she did have cutting hay didn't want to come down here for the hay if he didn't get the other farm. Because this hay had to be sent to a mushroom barn, and he didn't have really a way to do that. And if he couldn't get that hay over there, he wasn't going to come over down here for this hay. So fast forward to this year, we did that hay over there. Teresa baled it, and they got 40 bales. Okay. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, I asked her. Well, I had asked Teresa when I got back from England. I asked Teresa what the deal was, if they had made the hay over on this side of the road or not. And she said no. She said, you need to get that back. I was like, yeah, I do. So I took a chance and made a phone call and talked to the property owner that we're on right now. I said, hey, how much? I said, I'm looking at baling hay. I just did Anita's place, and looked like your place wasn't done. Are you going to have it done? Because I can do it if you want. And she got back to me right away. She's like, yeah, how much are you going to charge me to farm the ground? How much are you going to charge me to take the hay off the ground? I was like, well, I'm not going to charge you anything. I never charged you before. I said, but I'm just not going to give you any hay. She said, no, that's fine. She said, I need it done, because if it doesn't get done, I'm going to lose farmland assessment. And that's what she would lose. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it. I said, wait till the rain goes through, and then I'll make the hay. So that's what I did. And I don't know, I called her up this morning and said that she wanted me to tell her when I was going to be here. And I did. I called her up this morning and said that I would be here this afternoon. And sure enough, here I am. And I'm going to get going, because William was bad at his school today, and I got to discipline him a little bit. And I got other things I got to do. There you go. Best mower I ever owned. I've had that thing for 10 years. Over 10 years now. Yep. Needs a little bit of work to it. The header needs to have all new tines put in it. But other than that, we're good. So anyway, I'm back to making hay here now. There's some weeds. But what I did find out was that they did not make the hay on this property. They made the hay on Anita's property, the other property. They brush hogged this. That's what they did. They wanted the hay from the neighboring property. They thought that when they agreed that they were going to have this property, that was this property. And they made that hay into good hay, into little bales. Apparently they made it into little bales. Sprayed the weeds out of it, and there wasn't any weeds in it, but they sprayed it and they made little bales. And then this, they just brush hogged, which for 2 years they brush hogged. Well, you can't do that in New Jersey. If you get farmland assessment, it has to be farmed, whether it's corn, soybeans, or hay. It has to be farmed. You can give it a fallow year, which is what a brush hog would have been considered, a fallow year. After that, you gotta farm it. So anyway, I guess what goes around comes around. I had another property owner, get this, another property owner that I had piled up hay on her property, and it was there for about 4 months, just stacked like I normally do. And then when I get a chance to go get it, I go and I get it, and I pull it off the property and I sell it. Well, her son had a problem with that. I guess her son felt that hay had never been stacked there, and they were afraid that somebody was going to get crushed by this hay if it miraculously fell over. Well, it is a possibility. It is next to a state park, and kids could come from the state park, climb up on the pile of hay, knock it over, and kill themselves. But I highly doubt that it would have happened. But anyways, whatever. So it was not a big property. It was maybe 15 acres, tops 15 acres. But it was the warm season grass, and it produced about 75 bales on 15 acres. So it always did pretty good. Well, last year, let's see, when did they start doing it? Last year before last, was when they asked me, 2 years ago, same as this deal here. 2 years ago, Wesley, we can't have the big bales here anymore, which I told him. I said, well, I can take them away if you don't want them there. And I farmed it for 15 years. That's what got me. It's like 15 years and there's no communication, and it's fine. But anyway, first year they came in and they sprayed it and killed it and put grain sorghum in like July. Well, what happens with grain sorghum in July? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. Last year, they killed it again. They worked it up, and they put in, I think it was Sudex. You know, Sudex, Sudan grass, Sudan sorghum. And they chopped it, which I thought, well, that's interesting. They chopped it. But they didn't chop it all. They ended up taking it and then running it over with a disc harrow and then plowing it under. that was last fall. Well, they did that in about September. Well, I guess there was a reason for it. The Sudan grass, whether it wasn't good enough or whatever the problem was, they didn't, maybe it was toxic and they couldn't feed it to their cows. I know who did it. No, they couldn't feed it to the cows, or they couldn't sell it, or whatever it was. They plowed it under, they worked it down, and then they planted orchard grass. Now remember, there was warm season grass on that stuff, the big blue stem switchgrass and Indian grass on it, and that stuff just absolutely loves to come back from the roots. When he plowed that thing, it was like he put the orchard grass down, and what came back? About 50% of it has come back as warm season grass. Well, warm season grass doesn't compete well with orchard grass, but the orchard grass is there. Well, he hasn't made it yet, and it is now November 3rd. He hasn't made that grass yet, and she called me maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. I was in England, so on about the 18th or the 19th, and I told her that, I said, well, when I get back, I'll talk to you about it. So I got back and I talked to her about it. She says, well, we haven't talked to the regular guy, the guy that was doing it. And I was like, oh, all right. Who is it? She told me who it was. And I was like, okay. And I says, this figures. This is kind of his MO. It's fine. He promised the sun, the moon, and the stars and never come through on anything. But this is at his expense. So a week ago, I was down and I made the neighboring property. I made the hay on the neighboring property. And it got to the point where I was like, well, I called her and I said, hey, what do you want to do with this stuff? And she's like, well, I haven't talked to the farmer that's doing it yet, and I really need to. Geese, honkers. I really need to, but I haven't yet. So I haven't yet. I was like, all right. So today I said, that's it. I'm making my final push. We're going to mow the rest of what we've got in the next couple of days, and it's going to get baled, and then the mowers get put away, the mowers get put away, the balers get put away, and that's the end of haymaking 2025. So I sent her a text message this morning about meeting. I said, because I'm going to be done with this. And she informs me that last fall, after he did the Sudex, he put lime on it when he worked it down. So this guy has spent some money. Oh shit, my phone. This guy has spent some money on the farm, and it actually looks okay other than the warm season grass being there. So I was like, well, yeah, no, he's got a lot invested in that. There's no sense in me coming down there, because it's just going to piss people off. I don't like pissing people off when it comes to, farming properties. It just... Okay, so you want to give it to me? I'm all right with that. That is how I've gotten 90% of my land, is that property owners not happy with the person that's on their ground, and then they ask me to take it, and I always, just say, hey, well, before I come on, make sure you talk to the former farmer. And that's how I do it. And I've always done it that way. And when I'm asked to not farm their ground anymore, I don't turn into a belligerent asshole and cuss them up and down, because you will never, ever, ever get ground back acting like a buffoon. Just like this property. It's 65 acres. Yeah, it hurt when I lost it. But guess what? I'm back. 65 acres of ground that is, 65 acres of ground that I am now going to be farming again, which makes me happy, because you know what? I wasn't a belligerent asshole. I said, you know what? Thank you for allowing me to farm your ground for so many years, and if you ever need me to farm it again, you know my number, or just reach out. Don't hesitate to call me, and I'm sure we can come up with an agreement, and so everybody's happy. And out of all this ground that I've done and I've lost, I generally get back there. The only time that I don't go back onto a farm is if it is sold and they don't know who I am, which that happened to me this spring on a piece of property I farmed for over 20 years. It was not quite 20 years, 2007 I started, so 07, 17, so what is that, 18 years? 18 years I farmed it. And this spring, this year, I went over there and, you know, I was getting ready to go do what I had to do. Unfortunately, you know, it got sold, and the bank that owned it they failed to mention who was actually farming the ground, and I lost some investment there, but it wasn't a lot, but still, you know, once you lose investment, it puts a sour taste in your mouth. But anyway, with that being said, it's all good. Somebody else is farming it, but that's usually how I lose a piece of ground. Anyway, I gotta go. Yep, here comes Grant. Excellent. All right, good.